Hey everybody, it's me, Kellen Matthew. I was just on the phone with my girl Sarah. We were talking about how did our species get so complex in the first place? Since we're all made of cells, I guess the real question is, how did these complex cells originate in the first place? Well, the answer is totally awesome. Check it out. We first got to remember what type of cells are on our planet. And you really only have to worry about two. First off, prokaryotes. Prokaryotic cells just lack a nucleus and other cell parts. So what are we really talking about here? Bacteria. So whenever you hear the word prokaryote, just think bacteria. Here's what a typical prokaryotic cell looks like. Bacteria cells are pretty complex looking, right? Those hairs and flagella all sticking out and moving around. This is E. coli. We have E. coli bacteria living in our guts, just hanging out and helping us digest. Thanks, E. coli. So this guy looks pretty complex, right? But when compared to our cells, prokaryotes got nothing on us. Now here's a eukaryotic cell. A eukaryote is pretty much any living thing that isn't a bacteria. You know, plants, animals, fungi, protists. Notice any differences? Take a look for a while. I'll wait. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on in there. This is an animal cell with so many organelles in it. Organelle just means a cell part with a specific function. To me, they're sort of like the guts of the cell. Just how our bodies have organs that do specific jobs, eukaryotic cells have organelles that have specific tasks. Most of these cell parts are membrane bound. All this means is that each of the parts are surrounded by their own membrane. So the question is, where did these membrane-bound organelles come from? Well, the answer, the endosymbiosis theory. This is the idea that ancient simple cells ingested other ancient simple cells that would eventually turn into organelles. This idea is huge. Let's take a look at that. The word endosymbiosis tells you the whole idea right there. Endo means within, and symbiosis happens when two organisms depend on each other. This means that one big cell swallows up a small cell, and the two benefit from each other in their relationship. How crazy is that? So here's the deal. At first, the only living cell on our planet was a prokaryote. And it stayed like this for 1.5 billion years. Then, what most likely happened is some cells got larger and took on all these folds. Yeah, I know my drawing skills are awesome. These folds helped the bacteria keep a large surface area to work with. Probably these folds would develop into organelles like the good old Golgi and endoplasmic reticulum. Look at them, they look all foldy. Then what happens? Well, this beast prokaryote keeps ingesting and incorporating other bacteria. Here's another prokaryote floating by, and the big bacteria takes him in. This would eventually become the mitochondria. You remember mitochondria, right? The mighty powerhouse of the cell. They make energy for the cell by doing aerobic respiration. So now we got a big cell with a nucleus, a Golgi, some ER, and some mitochondria for energy. You know what? I think we got ourselves a eukaryotic animal cell here. If this ancient cell swallows up some blue-green bacteria, check it out. This will eventually evolve into a chloroplast that does photosynthesis. And bam, now we got ourselves a eukaryotic plant cell. If you're not a fan of my artwork, here's a more scientific rendering. Sweet, right? So how do we know this? Well, there's a lot of scientific evidence that supports this theory. But the main thing is that The chloroplast and the mitochondria both act like bacteria. First off, they have their own set of DNA. That's right, they have their own genes that are different from ours. Second, they divide just like bacteria do. Chloroplasts and mitochondria just hang out in the cell and divide on their own schedule. They use binary fission, which is exactly what prokaryotes use today. But check it out. It looks like mitochondria and chloroplasts need us to survive. They can't live without us. See, if you were to take them outside of the cell, they'd die. So they depend on us. And obviously we depend on them. This is a really cool explanation of how complex our cells actually are. So how about that? As cells evolved, they kept incorporating more and more cells until they look as complex as they do today. But that's the endosymbiosis theory for you. Until next time, it's Kellen Matthews saying, if you want to communicate like a eukaryotic cell, just use your cell phone. Peace.